Hello, and welcome to the GM's Book Club, a podcast where we take a role-playing game, read it cover to cover, and rate, review, and discuss what we think about it. We've got some more hand gestures there. I love it. We're doing all the bits and pieces. Five star. I love that. Yeah, very good. My name is Fiona, and as always, I have I said erstwhile host on a different podcast, but my favourite host, my favourite co-host. How's that?
I'll take that. I'll take that from my favourite co-host as well.
I'm sick everywhere. Another amazing GM expert. We've got Hamilton back on again. Hello, Hamilton. How are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, I'm good. Back, happy to be back in the land of the GMs and out of the dungeons for a little bit.
Yeah, horrible down there. I would not recommend.
It's not great in space either, by the way, Fiona, but we'll find out about that soon.
Yes, well, you sort of buried the lead a little bit there. So what are we talking about today, Hamilton? What is our book for the GM's Book Club of choice?
We are looking at a global phenomenon, out of this world, space horror, sci-fi, RPG, that has even got its own month for zine creation, nonetheless, known as Mothership. Made by the Tuesday Night Games crew. They have a load of people that worked on this, comparative to other ones. It's quite the heavy script of like people. You've got Sean McCoy, who's the creator, and you've got developed by like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people, a bucket load of illustrators, a lot of consultants, proofreaders. It's like serious, proper game.
It's a proper sci-fi horror game.
A proper game, but for something that seems so much smaller. You know, you look at the cover of Mork Bork, and it says Pelle Nielsen and Johan Noor. And there's the other guy. I forgot the other guy. There's the guy who translates it as well. It mentions in the video. And you're like, and that's it. You know, you're like, it's very concise. This is like, no, this has been done for seriousness. And it's really interesting, made very famous.
Yes.
I think like it was doing well, but it done very well after a certain Quinn.
Quinn's Quest might have, there might be a theme of our GM Book Club picks back.
Well, actually, we did our first pitch of GM's Book Club to each other, like, as a thing. Yeah. And then Quinn came along, we're like, oh, bugger.
Yes. Sadly, a much more famous board gamer turned TTRPGer is now obviously got a very successful YouTube channel, which is
very, very good production values. You know, Brett in the background does a great job. I love the stage setting on that. And the fact he does it with that retro 70s VHS vibe.
Yes.
It's just like that. I love that. It's like, I don't know if you ever watched Calcium. You know, that show, you know, the thing, and it's like the fake documentaries in the past. It's very much that vibe, and I love it.
We're gonna. No, I guess if you listen to this podcast, you probably already have seen Quinn's Quest, but we recommend actually watching the Quinn's Quest review of Mothership as well, because basically, whilst we're not going to repeat it word for word, it does line up pretty much with how we feel about things, except. Let's start with a big disclaimer at the top of this, a little bit behind the scenes, as it were. So, obviously, I am, what would one say, a collector, a sort of a...
Archiver.
Yes, that's a good way of putting it. So I already had, conveniently, a Mothership. And what we're going to look at today is the Player Survivor Guide, which is basically a free PDF that you can get both on Tuesday Night Games website, but also on Drive-Thru-RPG. Obviously, you can pay what you want on there. And so you can get this book right now and just start playing. So I was like, oh, well, I already have that. I have that from like a year ago. I'll get that, I'll read it, and I'll pass it over to Hamilton. Amazing. Job done.
Thumbs up.
And then I went back and watched Quinn's Quest. And he mentioned a couple of things, which I was like, I don't think that is in my version of the PDF. And it turns out that between me getting that PDF, which was probably about October 2024, and now that we are talking about it, there'd been a massive update because obviously the Kickstarter raised a lot of money. It turns out with that Kickstarter, the first edition came out, which was basically just updated what the player guide was. And so I must have had a small window where I still had the zero edition, as it were, this sort of Zine printing that was used for feedback purposes over 3 years. I think it says here on the actual sort of player guide that I've got in front of me, developed all that sort of thing with a much smaller team, ironically enough. Copyright 2018. Hilariously, whereas the one that is out for people to get is 2023. So I just want to highlight that because I think that sort of confusion leading to some late night messages from me going like, Hamilton, here's the other edition that we need to look at.
Because my first thing I said to Fiona, and I'm going to be honest here, is I said, because I'd seen the Queen's Quest thing when it came out, like a year ago or whatever it was, I think like 9 months ago now, because I went to relook at it again today after the fact, because I read the one you sent me, and I went, Fiona, I'm ready for tomorrow, but I have some spicy takes, because I'm going to be honest, off that Session Zero, Series Zero original testing book, I wasn't captured the way that everyone else, and I was shocked. I was like, it's a good game. It's like, it's got a lot to it. It says a lot about doing sci-fis, but it's not like amazing. It's not like, I'm kind of was like, how did people pick this one over so many other games as the one that becomes the thing? And how does it like, it's not breeding in me this feeling that Quinn had of like so amazement in the systems and the way it's set out and the beautiful layout and stuff. And I was like, there's something going on. And I was like, I was ready to come here and go, I think everyone's fucking wrong. Well, no, I'm not like that, but I don't get it. I was going to ask people like, tell me what it is about this game. Then you sent me your late night messages and showed me this. And then I read the new one and I went, oh, now I get it. Yes. Now this is like this is like so much better in so many different ways. And I recommend anyone who is looking to make TTRPGs to get into TTRPGs to get both versions.
If you can,
You can. Or we'll ask us and we'll try and get you the old version if you can.
Because I think it's fine at this point.
It's free. Well, it is free and it's like, supposedly. So like if it is, we'll get it out. But the thing is, the difference between the original one and the new one is the difference between having a good idea and selling a good idea.
100%.
And it's so different. And that is not only in the layout, but the organization of the chapters, what information they've taken out and put into other books and kept and expanded upon, the level of artwork that's been put in.
Yes.
The classes actually now have classes and loadouts instead of being just wishy-washy.
Like role-playing flavor. Yeah, absolutely.
Do what you want, Flavor Flav. And it just feels like, now I see the appeal. And it was such a change. It was kind of like, it was such an expression of like all the little things you have to do to get that 20% to make it, there's that 80-20 rule. Like that was the 20 in this 1.2 version that makes the game.
That's so fascinating. Because I will say like, because they had like over 3 years of like feedback and developing this particular game from what I, again, quickly read about this morning, trying to work out what the hell have I done. So what we're going to talk about is both versions in this particular GM's book club, because actually this mistake, there's no mistakes in GM's book club, obviously, no mistakes at all for GMing, but I think you're right. It is just interesting to see where they came from and now how that has inspired not only this version, the first edition, but then I think Mothership is technically the Morkborg of sci-fi right now. That sort of thing. It's inspired so many people to then do their own modules to build on it. And again, we have to recommend Quinn's Quest's review on this. There are so many modules that he recommends, not only just the official Mothership ones that you can get in the deluxe box, but also other supplements that people have actually made in the community. And I think that's just, again, any TTRPG that does that, obviously, Morkborg does that as well. It's so nice because then it gets away from the big dragon, and really focuses on like what your creativity is and what sparks your imagination, which clearly Mothership did for quite a lot of people. Like I'll mention at the top, one supplement that he mentions is called Archiver, which isn't necessarily adventure module or anything like that. It just means that you can now add in classes or profiles essentially of people who are doing a documentary whilst in space. And I was just there going like, oh, of course, that for me, absolutely. I'm going to definitely use that in a Mothership game that I'm hoping to run in the future. Because how do you make it different? How do you make a sci-fi game about aliens or weird things in space different? Do something like that, add a different thing on it. And I was just like, yeah, I'd love that idea. You know what I mean? And
100%.
There's some modules about how to do time travel, obviously a big dungeon crawl on a planet, a bug hunt, all that sort of thing. So all these different flavors of horror just was realized from what is ultimately, as we're going to say, we're going to look at the player survivor guide for this, very neutral, very much like here's the jumping off point, here's the foundation.
Yeah.
Where do you want to go from here?
There's two types of games out in the world of TTRPGs, I think, that people make. It's probably, simplifying it, but I'm just going to stick with this as an analogy for now, which is that and I think people realized it really later on in the time frame, sort of in that 2018 sort of pre and within pandemic time, of what makes Dungeons and Dragons so great is its adaptability. Like, it's the adaptability of that system, and we can see that in the multiplicity of things that have been made for it. And along has come a small few of different systems that have gone, I'm going to make something that is not only a baseline system background for people to roll, like Powered by the Apocalypse and stuff like that, which is a similar game, I guess. But like, I'm going to make these things which have so it's a bit more than Powered by Apocalypse, in that Powered by Apocalypse, you can just kind of make anything off it, really. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of free and loose. It doesn't really have a vibe, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
Because the original Apocalypse world game is definitely post-apocalyptic, but all the Powered by Apocalypse games are not apocalyptic.
No,
you see what I mean? It's a great back-end system. D&D's a little bit like that, but D&D definitely has the Flavor Flav going on of fantasy, or high-level wizard slinging fantasy.
Yes, absolutely.
But Mort Borg and Mothership, and I'm trying to think of another good example that is, I guess that's really the two.
In most recent years, I think.
Recent years. There's probably more that I could not get to in my head right now. But out of those two, what they've done is they've turned up with a freaking awesome background system of basic, simple role-playing, and fed that through with an interest and a focus on one particular genre styling that can be adapted, but they've made that background for that kind of game. You're not going to, I don't think you're going to pick up the Alien game and do the same. You're just not going to run another type of sci-fi game. But this, you can run aliens, you can run a time travel, you can run a bug hunt, you can run
Starship Troopers,
androids, Starship Troopers sort of thing. That's what I mean by that. Yeah, and then like, or a kind of I was thinking, like, we're doing a Necromunda thing. I was like, shit, we should have used this, because like, I'm like, this is actually so good. Baseline, like, horrible, horrific creatures from the warp could be in this game. You know what I mean?
I guess the only other game I can think of similar to it would be like a Forged in the Dark game, but again, that comes from the original of like Blade in the Dark is so baked into that system. And so I think here, I love how you put that, actually, is that both like a Mothership is just the veil of horror sci-fi over it, but it could be any different degree of what that means to you, whether it is like the time travel, doppelgangers, actual aliens, the Martian, for example, that you're stuck on a planet and you're having to survive. All those
pretty much any Twilight Zone you've seen.
100%.
Are You Afraid of the Dark or anything like that, I think could work.
100%.
Yeah, and I think it's really, I think it's really good, and the adaptability you can read in it now with this new one. And what I do love about the new one, particularly, is the first things first. It cuts you straight into how to build your character, and it's quick, it's easy, and it's so like it's 2 pages, and you're pretty much done. And I'm happy about that without it not losing all complexity. But sorry.
No. I was going to say, because even then they've streamlined down the character creation significantly, I'd think. Because, like, again, comparing the 2 editions, in the first edition, you'd rolled 6d10 for each of your stats. Whereas now it's just 2d10, add them together, and then record it. So, again, they've just, all these things have been put in. But, like, it is 2 minutes. It's so easy to make up what a character is, choose their stuff, choose their loadout very quickly, even to the point that there is a free app. And again, I say this without trying it myself, so don't quote me on this, but, very similar to Mortborg, you get like a quick random character generator. So I quite like being able to have games that support that aspect, where a lot of people nowadays, maybe there's a more of a pull, like if you're playing in person, people want to create characters quickly in person on paper rather than fiddle with apps. But here, I like the fact that we can have this accessibility to be like, cool, just roll it up quickly. Because then, again, you're not losing time. Because any time away from the game, especially if you're online, obviously tabs are open, suddenly you're doom scrolling, suddenly you're not listening, anything like that. So, I thought that was really cool. And I will say, the character sheet as well, it looks so much nicer. The new version. It's again, I thought it was pretty good the first time.
I thought it was messy. I thought it was so messy.
Yeah, it felt a little bit messy and a little bit all over the place. But the way I will say that this my big takeaway from this book, I had it with the edition 0 as well, is that all of it was very condensed, so that if you just found the page, it was in that page. It wasn't over 2 pages or anything like that. And I think they've done the same here in the new edition. It feels obviously a little bit cleaner, a little bit more efficient, and which is great. So that if you that rule, it's on And especially this book as well, the PDF, it's only 44 pages. So you're not, going through terms. It is a zine, essentially. So it's just a lot easier to quickly read through, both as, a physical thing, but also if you've got it as a PDF. So yeah, I was like, it's a masterclass in creating a rule system without, as efficiently as possible. Each word counts rather than having lots of flavor to it. You know what I mean? And even then, quite a few of the pages, they just have like a paragraph of text, but then the image on it as well. So like, again, that layout has sort of come into the forefront there. So I wanted to mention that because I felt like it was one of the more accessible ones I've read recently as a PDF, where I've gone, wow, I've managed to read this all in a sitting. Whether or not I've taken it all in is different, but I can easily scan through it. You know what I mean? Like sometimes when we've read books like
really. Mortal is a complete mess. So this is like.
Well, I was going to say Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. I was there going like, good grief, help me. But yes, yeah.
The system, like we're saying, is it kind of works so much better with the system it's trying to teach. Like the first version we looked at was so like, I don't know, it was very much trying to be like an old school RPG where someone's come into it before, knows a bit about these things, and I'm going to be slightly more complex and in depth. When this is actually like, right, okay, I just want to get down to this. I need to roll stats. How do I do that? Right, 2 10-sided dice, and it's all there pretty much. And that's actually everything you need for pretty much the most of the game.
Yeah, pretty much.
But the thing I thought still was lacking from this a little bit is the loadouts and the sort of class system. And I know that that's kind of the point about this game, is that it is very open-ended. And I think it's really good in this version in Mothership that you've got the scientists, teamsters, androids, and marines as your sort of starting 4 base classes to play. Yes. And I like the loadouts are kind of interesting in that it's a D10. We all like random rolling tables that then gives you a whole setup. So it's not like, I was like, do I have to roll T10 and then you're going to get like, I need to get all these different parts. It's like, okay, I know that I can make a dress uniform, revolver, and a challenge coin Marine. Now that is just, I've already got what that is in my head. They're probably just a little bit like posher. They're sort of like they're sort of an officer probably. That's why they've got a very nice dress uniform. They've got a revolver, but then they've got a challenge coin because they're sort of like lads. Do you know what I mean?
Go on. Heads you do it, tails you don't.
Yeah, exactly. Rollo's has gone in the bloody army, hasn't he, Rollo? And he's gonna, so he's gonna go,
Yeah.
But then you've got other ones like standard battle dress or whatever. But then it's like flamethrower, boarding axe, and you're like, cool. This person is all about attack. This is just like fire. They are with an axe. It's like visceral, violent sort of Marine, and you can kind of imagine that sort of character. Or they're just a real like heavy set, just always there with the gear. Do you know what I mean? So maybe they're not so like violent and visceral, but they're more just like, need a door breaking down. We're getting
I'm your person for
Gertrude.
it.
This person.
Yeah.
Gertrude with the flamethrower and the boarding axe. And so, I do like them a lot, and I think there's a lot going in there. But I think something that I like, I'm going to compare it a lot to Morkborg as we do this, because it kind of feels like it's in the same genre of like banding of types of RPG, is that they don't come with a lot of like, I'm pulling my hands together, like just like vibe. Do you know what I mean? There's not enough. There's a lot in those things, which I'm saying is great. But I'd love a really cool piece of art for each one of these, like each one of these classes, a 2-page spread, and a bit of like, here's some chat that they might say. Here's a couple of quotes from a couple of Marines.
Quotes would be good.
You know what I mean? And a bit of, or just like some. That's clearly, the Teamster is clearly a picture of Ripley. The Marine is clearly a couple of the sort of space, the Marines from
the Aliens,
the Aliens Marines,
and Starship Troopers. That's sort of like
just getting a couple of those in and just giving them a bit more space, because it's very condensed, the loadouts, which I like with the character creation, but with these, it's just like, it's just like very Excel spreadsheety in a sense.
And I think obviously that's the vibe I think they're going for on stuff, as well as that accessibility. It is like, this is a certain theme we're doing. And on top of that, like, we also have those trinkets and patches, which I think are supposed to add to that individuality,
they do.
which I love. I'm a big fan of these random tables where, the trinkets and patches, they don't do anything mechanically. They're just flavor. And I think that's great, because then you can get like what this character looks like to you. But one thing I was going to mention, and to be fair, I did get this from the Quinn's Quest video as well, before people start going like, oh, it's already been said, is that there's nothing here to be like rolling for personality or even relationships between people in your team. You are just making an individual character. And that, it's interesting because like, I guess it just assumes that you guys are all going to get on and fight the alien, or go on and go through the dungeon, like, like as yourselves. I think maybe that's what it's trying to suggest, perhaps. But realistically, you do need a little bit of reason. Like, you've all met in the tavern. You've all done, what's the purpose of you guys doing this? And that might be in the Warden manual for sure. But I think like you just need that sort of like, personality, flaw, bond, whatever. You know what I mean? Just
I guess so. I was going to say, like, where is that in D&D? But I guess it's the flaw and bond, those sorts of things.
But that's your drive. That's your drive for your individual stuff. But if we're doing it as a group, there isn't anything here. But a lot of RPGs that we've looked at do have like where you're going to ask questions of the person on your left and the person on your right. I'm thinking of like, I've just read about Kids on Bikes, for example, and you've got lots of questions. You're like, someone that you know, and there is a positive relationship. Someone that you know, it's a negative relationship. Someone that you don't know, and you roll, and then you have a question. You go, ooh, why is it like this? And so having that conversation. But of course, I think it's just because it is in that OSR thing. It's like you just roll the thing up and go. It's like you'll figure it out and play. But I think
kind of. I kind of agree with that, though. Personally, I thought when Quinn said that, because I watched it, that I thought, well, isn't that just the point of, like, that's what everyone else brings to the table? Is a book really going to tell me that? I guess that's going to be part of the scenario. It's going to be a part of like whatever you're doing. You will figure it out as you go, and that's kind of the fun of it, I guess. I
agree. I think it'd be nice to have a mention of it in character creation somewhere. Okay. I think wherever it is, it must be in the Warden's handbook to be like, you've set them up. Yeah, you said, here's a scenario, and you tell the people that. Like, I think I mentioned it earlier, there's a supplement called Archiver, which is like you change it so that what's happening is that they are the documentary crew that is following around the Marines or whatever, and they've got different classes, all that different thing. But like, you've given them like, this is what you guys are. You are the sound engineer. You are the camera person. You are the producer. You're the tech person. I was like, I like that. Instantly, I can see these. Because I can relate to those positions. I can relate to the hierarchies and the statuses and all that sort of thing. So I was just like, oh, that's a really cool concept, just putting on top of that. And then you can use that supplement not only to create your own things, but you could go on to, like a pound of flesh or a bug hunt, and then be like, cool, you're not the heroes, you're the team behind them going, oh my God, and capturing all this footage, So I guess it's elsewhere. But because it wasn't in either of them, and you know how it is, people, unless you tell them to do something like 2 or 3 times, they're not going to do it, and then they'll be like, oh, I didn't really have a bonding thing with so-and-so, I just did my own thing. But I think, as you rightly said, I think it's different things with different play groups, right? Some people just like play themselves, but I'm a Marine, rather than like, oh, I'm Ripley, and I have this thing against the captain who happens to be an android. It's that sort of vibe to what I was thinking.
I know what you mean. So like a party page, page about like group dynamic or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll also say, in this version as well, you can get a pet, which I thought was interesting, as a part of your equipment. I don't know if I would have a pet on this, but I like the fact that I got included in this edition. It made me laugh quite a bit.
Yeah, I like it. Pets can be great companions, but failure to protect them comes at a significant emotional cost. And you're like, yeah.
But this is the thing. So that tone, I like that. That's so few words describes exactly what it is. You can have a sentence or two for the party dynamic or whatever. You know what I mean? I think that's the only thing. And I was like, that is succinctly said, like, you can have pets. We wouldn't recommend it.
And then you get on to the weapons area and stuff. And this is kind of, I like this layout. Again, just talking about layout as well. It's so clear. And it's a much nicer way than, because we've been in the land of tables for a bit, then have this breather with it, like some nice pictures and very simple pictures with just very clear, like, this is what it does. This is how much it costs, range, damage, shots, wounds, and anything special it does in a very neat way. Because particularly, I could keep going, but the old one had it in like, here's this bit and here's this bit coming off in 4 different options, like 4 different, like, some of them had a couple of different like areas where this is the special bit that does the grenade launcher and stuff like that. and they all seem kind of fun, and it's all very simple. And I like the D10 system because I haven't seen too many of like the monsters that we go against. They all seem like there's a massive range. Do you know what I mean? From like 1d5 all the way up to a 4d10, and anti-armor at that sort of thing. So it's kind of it does vary quite a lot in terms of like it's quite swingy in terms of what.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Which I think again people could enjoy depending on what else. And I'd say monsters and stuff like that. I think that's in there's a book called Contracts or something like that where you, again it's like a bestiary as well because there's no monsters or like stat blocks for those kind of creatures in the player's handbook. It kind of requires you to make up stuff, I believe. I think the big thing I wanted to talk about this edition, the first edition for the Player Survival Guide, is that it does include how to be a great player. And I think this is quite an interesting thing. Again, we've had that before with other TTRPGs where it's like, principles for good players and all that sort of thing. It talks about how there's a dichotomy of like characters are going to die and you should be playing towards that end. But at the same time, you don't want your characters to die. And it's that treading that fine line of being in a horror movie. Like you're going to open that door. You're going to, you're going to go, anyone there? You're going to do all that sort of business because that fits into the trope. You're not supposed to meta game. Oh, I know what's, you the player could be like, oh shit, that's definitely an alien or something like that, but the characters don't do that. And I always find it's really interesting as someone who plays a lot of horror, how we can like encourage people to make not the best choices for the character's survival, but for the best choices for the story and have more fun as a result. Because we get to a point where, again, I go back to like the video games and like a Baldur's Gate 3 effect of like going, well, I'm going to min-max myself to get through and get the best ending for my story. And I feel like that sort of maximizing as a player doesn't mean the story is best. You just get the good ending. Best does not equal good. Really, what we want to try is having all these stories where you don't survive. That's why they have like this high score thing on your character sheet. It's quite a fun little number. It's like how many sessions has your character survived for? It doesn't mean anything mechanically. Maybe the warden can use it as like a roll for luck or something like that, anything like that sort of thing. But I just quite like it as like man, I lasted 3 sessions before I got eaten. That's a new high score. I like that as an element, and I kind of hope more games like Call of Cthulhu do that. I think that's quite an interesting thing to play with.
No, I totally agree. And something that I'm doing for Wraithborn, I think, is something that a lot of these TTRPGs are doing now, is making pullable pads of character sheets. Would be really useful for this. I don't know if they do it, but I've seen a lot of other TTRPGs doing these. Like, they're not that expensive to get made, and you can get like 100 sheets of the same thing printed with the sort of like, that glue top to it, and you just pull them off and off and off. And if it's a game like that, I would feel like this would be perfect for it. So it doesn't feel
absolutely.
So you feel a little less attached to this piece of paper that you've had to go to the office to not get caught printing out your character sheet from the boss when you're in the middle of doing a deadline.
Speaking from experience there.
I don't know why I knew that I had that such locked away. But yeah, no, I agree. And I do like the how to be a great player. Safe environment to play, pay attention is really important. Things like these are really good for them to say in the sense of like, sometimes it's a long day and we're not going to always pay attention in a game. But I think they're trying to make the point that this is a horror game. So if you don't pay attention, you probably will die. So,
Well, not only you will die, your teammates will die as well.
Exactly.
I think that's, it's not, you fuck up, everyone will fuck up as a result, for sure.
And I think, I mentioned it off podcast, I think, was where it does do examples of play is also really reinforcing all those ideals.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite ones is the one when it shows them in a room full of these alien urns, and it's called it's literally a page called example of play. It's near the end,
right at the end. Yeah.
And it's just it's called Empty Vessel, and it's a really great example of a few different things in there that I really love. So there's a character called Phil, who is clearly like a character who's just the sort of like Leroy Jenkins.
Yeah, chaotic, whatever.
Chaotic, going to go for whatever seasons in front of him that, I see these things, they sound interesting, I want one, sort of thing. And clearly the other character's like, this is really bad. One of them goes, I'm just going to nope this, and just goes and nopes it, and just like, I'm out. I'm just going, no, I'm good, and walks away. And they're like, fine. The other one, Clear, is saying, this is dumb. This is a dumb game about Phil. And so Phil, you're going to open one. What's everyone else doing? And Clear goes, if I can see that Phil is doing it, I'm going to try and stop him physically if I have to. And then the warden says, are you all okay with a little PvP, player versus player here? really good to just make that note as a warden. You're about to go into this thing, because sometimes you could easily just run into it and assume it's going to be okay, but it's definitely worth sort of checking this thing. And it gives the person who is being the sort of Leroy Jenkins the opportunity to also say, like, oh, okay, I didn't realize we are going to get into that. Maybe I won't do it. Or it also gives it, yeah, I'm up for this. Go for it. Try and stop me if you want. I know, he says, and if I'm being annoying, please let me know and I'll cut it out. Like, that's what Phil says. So he's clearly been aware that, oh, okay, so it's got to the point where you're going to fight me in game. Just to double check. Do you mean you're actually annoying me
outside the game?
Outside of the game.
Honestly, it's such. When you pointed that out, I was like, wow, actually, this is. I've never seen that in a play example ever. Usually, it's just the mechanics of like, oh, well, they do this. So to see it like have that both like that social code of conduct for players and the warden to be like, oh, just checking, is perfect. And again, very short in terms of an example. It's not like reams of like a script that sometimes we see. So yeah, I thought it was really clever, really good.
Really just stood out to me. And they both say, no, it's good, I'm good, just thanks for checking, which is really great. The Clea says, and then perfect, because I want to look inside these jars really bad. And then Clea says, yeah, I'm down for a little tussle over the goo jars if you are. Rock, yeah, let's do it. Okay, so whatever you do, I'm not going to be here. And then that's when the guy knocks Snopes. And then he goes, okay, Phil, read the jars. And then it goes into the actual, like, then they have, I'm just going to tackle them. And then they make a roll. And it's done in a really it's a really just perfect. It's just
straightforward. Yeah, I agree. And yeah, just to go on then to say like the actual game mechanics as well. I mean, there's a great, very simple and clear like cheat sheet right at the back about what the stats are. As I think I've said before, it is a mixture of Call of Cthulhu, so you roll that D100 dice, or I can't remember, the Genesis system or whatever it was called, whereby you've done by Chaosium, where you do a D100 roll and it's going to be less than your stats. So we've got your strength, speed, intellect, or combat to accomplish a task. If you go over, it's a failure and you gain 1 stress. Anytime you fail something, you're going to gain a stress, or whenever you see something horrible, etc. Same with saves as well. You've got to roll less, D100 roll less than sanity, fear, or body. Again, if you fail, you're going to gain the stress. And then when you panic, I think there'll be certain circumstances a bit like in Alien when you do a panic check is when like you see a dead body or that sort of thing. Or you could just say to the warden, I feel like I'm going to panic right now because I see all this stuff. Like again, it's that conversation about what you, the player, is doing, etc. And you're going to roll a d20. It's going to be greater than your current stress, I think it is, or else you panic. And again, that's that sort of almost a bit of that sanity. Sanity roll from Call of Cthulhu, because you've got to roll over it because you don't understand. You want to fail it.
Yes.
You want to fail your panic check because you're in control. But if you go under, you understand what is happening, which I thought is good. So again, and that I like what they did for this particular one because again, in the first edition, they've changed it. Because before it used to go all the way up to 30 plus in terms of stress, and it was just absolutely bonkers. The 1d20, again, people are familiar with that rolling a d20, and it's like, oh, bigger numbers are better, but the more stress you have, the worse it's going to be. Until like if you roll, I think it's whatever, like 20, your heart stops, you die instantly through sheer stress.
And again, it's very swingy in all those stats and stuff. So you're talking like 2d10 plus 25. So we're talking like minimum of 27 to the maximum of 45. But then you get, like, when you choose your class of, like, Marine, Android, Scientist, Teamster, you can get, for example, plus 20 to intellect, which means you can have an Android which has a 65 intellect, and then something else that's like a 26, 27 even as a low. So you can have a real swing in your stats, which I think is good. I think it makes it interesting, allows you to then, focus on things, and then particular like saves and stuff like that. And they have, an Android has a minus 10 to one stat, so it could even go down to like a 16 to a 65, could be the range of stats they have. And like the Teamsters are quite like a good like generic +5 to all stats, +10 to all saves, whilst the others get like benefits and negatives, which I think are all. I think it's all very interesting. I think when I started out playing D&D, I was more like, oh, I want everything to be good. Like I think that's quite a common thing, isn't it? You want everything to be a solid number. You don't want any negative modifiers, right? And you slowly learn that like having some negatives, some positives are all really good. But actually, slowly you get into this point where having something freaking amazing, one thing you're really awesome at, and some things that you're absolutely terrible at is a really fun way to play. And creates much more dynamic characters and gameplay and stuff like that. And actually helps the paralysis analysis, because I think min-maxers are some of the worst people to play with, not just because they min-max, but because actually they generally coincide with people who take 45 minutes on a turn.
Whilst
if you are someone who is, I am shit hot at strength. I am not fast. I'm not very clever, but I'm good at strength and combat. So in any situation, that's my go-to, right? Don't put me in front of the computer. Don't make me run away for it. I'm just going to hit it or shoot it. And, and that's kind of, and also in the stresses, I like how that, as much as I've never been a fan of Cthulhu because of the insanity mechanics. Sure. It's been what's put me off ever touching that game.
Sure.
And I think in this game, I think it's dealt with it a lot better. It's still not a game. It's not a mechanic I still like totally vibe with. It's like I want to enjoy my fun times. But what I do like about the way that this save mechanic works, in the sense of having 3 different types of these things that you can be affected from. Yeah. And it makes me think that actually, like, could you in theory just get rid of health and wounds in an interesting, like, could you make it sanity, fear and body as things you save against as a general rule, and treat body like a health thing? But what I like about it is that in that same vein is if I have benefits in the way my body, like, because he's taken the constitution and put it into this, I guess, in some space, and it's taken your sort of like wisdom save modifiers into this, that and separate from your main stats, is that you will put yourselves in situations where you can, like, you will put harm to yourself in particular ways, which I think is like quite a dark thing to look at, but I think it's an interesting form of addressing a game, as in like, okay, well, actually in this element, I've got really good fear. I'm an adrenaline junkie sort of character. I'm going to be totally happy. I will put myself in this situation, which is hard for everyone else to take, and I can do that. And I think that is using that as not just a character trait that you've kind of developed for your character. Like, my character's brave, but like physically on my sheet, it says I'm brave here. So I'm going to go do the brave thing, I think is really interesting. And I think it pushes that sort of gameplay, and the idea that's about like possibly being slightly sacrificing yourself for your other characters makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, especially because there'll be several times in this particular game where, death might be sudden, and so like, if you have cultivated this sort of like those quiet moments of like, we are a team, etc., and then you're like, no, I'm going to shut the door behind me because that's what I want to do, whether or not it says on paper. Like, I completely agree with you. If you're in doubt, look at what your paper can do and go, right, I'm good at these things, I'm bad at these things. But at the same time, if you're like, well, I feel like this is the way the story moves forward, that's your gut, do it. If it's that I'm always a big fan of like not being limited to what your character sheet says, because otherwise you're just looking in your character sheet, you're not looking up at the other people on the screen. No. But just to go back to your what you said about the panic effects and like stuff, I totally agree with you. What's really interesting in the panic table that they've got here, and it says this as well, it says like, be sure to go over the panic table and remove any results that don't fit with your group. Remember, role-playing panic is not an excuse to make someone else uncomfortable. As usual, check in as always. Again, so there's no big like page on safety tools necessarily, but every time it goes, just make sure you check in with stuff. Like I think we said before, that there's a mention of like, you can use drugs or sex to relieve stress. We'll go on to that in a second. But what I thought was interesting is that, so you roll your D20, and if you fail because your stress level is quite high, you take what the result is and look at the panic table. So if you look on the panic table on the D20 one, so we've got a 1, you get an adrenaline rush, which means you're going to get you take the best results on all rolls for the next D10 minutes, and you reduce your stress by 1d5. That's pretty good, but it means you're going to be reckless, right? That's the thing. And everyone from there, it's like, you're a bit nervous, you're going to gain stuff. And then it has these conditions, but it's not like you're bloodied, you're poisoned. They're very interesting ones, like, nightmares on number 7, you gain a new condition, sleep is difficult. Gain the worst results on rest saves. Doomed is my favorite one, number 10. Gain a new condition, you feel cursed and unlucky. All your critical successes are instead critical failures. And what that means is that if you roll doubles, if you roll a skill and it's under and it's a double, that's a critical success. If it's over and it's a double, it is a critical failure. So the fact is like, if you somehow get I've succeeded. It's a critical fail because I rolled doubles. I really like that. I thought that was a really cool condition. And obviously the worse they get, there's a death wish one at number 13. For the next 24 hours, whenever encountering a stranger or a known enemy, make a sanity save or immediately attack them. And again, is that something where you would just check with your group and like we saw that example of play, hey, I had this thing, going to make a sanity save, guys, because it's on the players to remember what they've got as well as the warden knowing what they've got as well. So I just thought, again, compared to other panic tables I've seen in, say, Alien, for example, where it's a little bit more violent, and definitely that panic table in Alien leans a lot into the Call of Cthulhu, like, oh, we're insane. And certainly they have like a table which is like temporary and permanent, like altered effects for your characters. Here, again, it feels like we can talk about this. It's a condition that you can role play, but if you don't want it, we'll change it to something else. I like how, again, short and simply, it sort of tells that and to you as the warden in this game, and just goes, right, you do need a conversation about this. I guess, again, my only thing is like you should definitely have a short paragraph at the beginning going like, hey, session zeros are important. And here's the checklist of stuff you need to consider in that. So not only character creation, but like the panic conditions, any topics off the table, the question mark about relieving stress via illicit means. That I think those are just check marks essentially that you just want to see about. And then in this book, it says like, oh, see page whatever for the actual fully rules on it. You know what I mean?
They've spent a lot of time trying to make this a very cohesive and comprehensive, comprehensible is what I mean, set of rules for this mechanic, which is much better handled than others, and has not got just like you're going slowly crazy because you've seen a weird alien once sort of thing, which I think is really interesting. However, like I thought what was interesting in the recent Quinn's Quest on Delta Green, which I didn't realise is Call of Cthulhu 2.0 or whatever.
100 years in the future.
100 years in the future. He equally stated that it has a slightly different take on it, and that it moves it in a slightly different direction, and similar to what they're talking about here. So I think I would still use it, and I think I would do a lot of I think the fact that you do a bit of editing to it, and it would be with your players as well. So,
yeah, absolutely. The last thing I was sort of going to talk about was this idea of XP and whatnot, which is in the sort of ports right at the end. Because this is the main change I didn't realize. So in the initial sort of Zero edition, it just had like XP and levels and all that stuff. And then in this version, it talks about shore leave and going to these ports and how there's like 5 different port classes of like, again, giving you a little bit of world building essentially to maybe where you pick up a contract or whatnot. And then it talks about each of these different port places has like a little table about like not only just the leaving shore costs, but like if you're able to pay this sort of stuff, how much stress set you can convert into giving a point for point into one of your saves, essentially. So increasing those saves a little bit, which I thought was quite interesting. Again, I've never really had it whereby you gain something that is very bad during a mission and you make it out and you go, cool, you can now transfer that into like character. I thought it was interesting. Yeah, so the way it works is that you pay the shore leave.
Character building, literally.
Literally character building. You pay the shore leave costs, then you make the sanity save in order to process this stress to make it into something useful, which I think is hilarious. And then obviously, depending on how much, success, you convert some of it. Critical success, you convert all of it. The maximum stuff, failure, you don't convert any of it, but you relieve it all. And then critical failure, you do not relieve or convert it. So it's interesting. Again, maybe this is where you would be metagaming slightly or min-maxing, going like, I need more stress, so I'm going to try and do as many failed skill checks as possible, and then hope for the best in terms of converting it to increase the saves, essentially. So one of your saves, it doesn't mean your skills get any better, I will say, only your saves, so your resilience to certain things. So yeah, I just thought it was really interesting. I'd never seen a system that did that. We've had systems where if you fail, you gain an XP, and then you just unlock a new move or something like that. But to actually have it, I mean, like again, Call of Cthulhu, if you fail a roll, there's a way to like increase those specific skills, but not necessarily a save per se, which obviously here it's trying to encourage you that the saving is the most important thing.
I think if you're going to make a very simple character sheet, which got not a lot of things, playing with that a lot is really fun and shows that that's what makes it a really good. It kind of plays into that high score thing. It's like, well, if I do go in, if I do get to port, I'm going to get better. It's like New Game Plus, isn't it? Every time you get to port, it's like I'm up leveling up. I level up here, and then I'm going to go run again. Like in a roguelike where you start, you got your little base bit, you get you go trade in, buy good shit, then you go out, and then you hope you survive to come back. Otherwise, you lose your stuff and you've got to start again. It would be interesting Oh, it's just made me have a really cool idea for my game,
Oh, there you go. Nice.
which is that my game's doing a Strahd where if you die, you come back, you just get reborn again. Maybe I should make it that you get reborn again and you gain some roguelike style new game plus ability. Like you can transfer one thing across or something like that. Could be
Yeah,
quite
one
cool.
of your previous abilities up. And yeah, it's almost like
Yeah,
encryption with the cards that if when you die, you're like, okay, you can keep certain cards, and you
yeah,
have to be like, you
exactly.
then build them and you're like, okay, you've got this horrific sort of Frankenstein monsters S
Yeah,
type thing, but it's because you've got all the best cards, and then you're just gonna plow your way through to the next one.
there
That
you
could
go.
be interesting.
Exactly.
Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
okay, I quite like that. Someone could do something like that even for this game. Make something a bit like maybe that. I've seen they've got in the Queen's Quest tournament like a time loop thing, like a game that's a bit like a weird time traveling thing, which sounds kind of fun. And so maybe something in that. I don't know.
Yeah,
It could be kind of cool. One of the things I'm quite eager to do is to really get reading some of the actual books that people read
signs.
for
Yeah,
designs and stuff because I think that's where this is going to come to its forefront because like what this sells is a really good it's a really good Excel spreadsheet. It's a
yeah.
really good like template upon
Mm-hmm.
which I feel I'd love to know like the story behind it because it sounds like when you were talking about it earlier that
Mm-hmm.
like it's obviously had this really long development process and
Mm-hmm.
it's obviously built some community around it during this time and it's quite a long time ago that
Yeah.
it was originally out. What were we talking about? The first version that we were looking at was 2018
17, I believe. Yeah, like
or so. Yeah, 18.
yeah,
So,
17,
but like
18.
they must have started it in 2017. So this has been going on
Mm.
for 8 years now. And holy crap, that's wild.
Don't look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, but like even in that, it's had all this time to. That's how it's built this community. When you think that Morkborg came around in 2020, February
Mm.
2020, I think when it first started, and like how that just meteorically went boom, and has kind of stayed at this like big plateau, like all the way up here.
Mm.
This is somehow like just gone along, and it's created a whole community around it. It's kind of I feel like idea for someone out there that there's room for some making of documentaries of some of these big games.
Oh, 100%.
Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like
Mm.
going into the real like why was this successful? What did you do? How did you like get together? How did you build a community? Because I think
Mm.
there's a few different stories out there, and this seems like one that I'm quite and why I'm saying that is because I look at the book and I've seen loads of books like this. If you go to Exalted Funeral, I
Mm.
was looking when I was doing like research for Wraithborn. There are bucket loads of great games on there that I found that are really weird that have like this or better art and equally as interesting ideas seemingly in terms of what I saw when I was looking at these things. But there's hundreds of them. There are literally there's like hundreds more than I ever thought there were in indie TV. I mean, like it's kind of silly, I know, but like what I mean is why this one? And
Mm.
I haven't really through looking at this, I haven't seen the thing that goes, well, this is so amazing. This is and maybe that's my ignorance and
Maybe.
my it probably is. It probably is. It 100% is that reason. But for me, that's where I'm like, I want to know more because at the moment, it intrigues me, but it doesn't go like,
Yeah, it doesn't
grab me
grab
off the
you.
shelf, grab me and
Yeah.
chuck me into the thing like other games have. And that's probably
Sure.
just because maybe it's just not my game. And that's the thing. But
No, I think this is a really valid point because I feel like I sort of jokingly said it at the beginning of like, Mothership is the Morkborg of sci-fi in the sense of like it's given you this framework and then people have gone off and made their own thing on it.
mm,
And I wonder if the reason is because Morkborg in itself had a setting, also was a beautiful, bright color which stood out from other things. I think you're right. I feel like the sci-fi element of it, and then the sort of the imagery, certainly like again,
yeah,
very black and white. It's very utilitarian, which again fits with that alien aesthetic of the
yeah,
70s and 80s. But I think it's just different things for different people. And
yeah,
what I like about it, I agree with you. I've read some of the modules, I read that archive of thing, and I was like, oh, I absolutely can see me playing this. I've read the Warden's Operation Manual, and I would actually recommend for people who are going to look at this, you can get the the player's survival guide, sorry, for free. The Warden's Operation Manual is actually a really good. How do you run any kind of games, and then has a bit about horror games on it. It doesn't really give you anything in terms of like plot hooks or anything like that. There's some tables and stuff, but I thought it was a really good way of doing it because it's in the same similar sort of style. But again, I don't know if this is your first game you're going to run, if it's your first game you're going to create or anything like that, unless you are really into sci-fi. And I think it gives you the basic foundation, which not a lot of games do, and lets you just go have fun.
I've just realised why it's done well.
Why?
Because they made Two Rooms and a Boom.
What, the Tuesday night games?
Yes, I get it now. Sorry, no, as in like, and I don't mean that in a. I do actually. No, I'm going to stand by what I said because like I think it's good, but I think the reason this one has made it more than any others a lot of the time is because it had a backing behind it.
It had a community.
It had a community because that's why I was just confused. It's like, how did someone come out with this really baseline game which hasn't to grab people really early on in the setting? Is because it comes from that makes so much more sense. It does make more sense to me, and it's not that I'm saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's
no.
I just want to clarify. It just gives context to how this has had an opportunity to go from what it was in 2018 to here and have this sort of development. Why it's able to be free was also kind of like it. For a lot of people, that's not something you can afford to do if you're going to make this sort of game, and it just gives a lot more context. Right, fine, okay. I don't, and please people don't say that like I think that's they got lucky. I just mean that like it gives so much more context to why this one over some other ones because I think. Yeah,
no. I think it's good to acknowledge this because I think why did Morkborg do so well? You said February 2020. I was like, okay, that sounds like COVID time. So instantly you had that factor into it.
Yeah.
You had a really bright color. You had some amazing art, and people were like, well, what's this? And then got into it from there.
But I felt like what Morkborg did as well, and I think is that it was very different to the majority of games people were playing. Like Mothership, if that comes out, I can show you, I'll get out the old Cyberpunk Red books that I've got, and they've got very much that sort of table structure and that look. And it's like, it's not, holy shit, someone's literally broken graphic design. Do you know what I mean? They did it like, or, and I
like the fact you've got Morkborg just right next to your desk as well to show it.
Yeah, exactly. I've always got it there. But also, like, as someone who did an arts-based degree in the sort of like early noughties, in that sort of era, when everyone was about grunging everything up. And it was about like, when you want to do a document, you do art and graphic design, it's about grunge textures and splatter effects and stuff like that. But that hadn't translated into real world art until the 2010s, like ish, into like real world stuff. And then it was only in 2020s when it actually became more mainstream, that sort of style. But see it as a TTRPG was like the first time I've gone, this is stuff we were doing like in 2004 when we were all being like, like 20-year-olds at uni making this sort of art, and to see it. And it's like that, I don't know, you look at that page, there's no page like that. Sorry, I'm showing the Getting Better page.
Yeah, the Getting Better page in Morkborg,
just literally blows your face off. I don't know. And I'm not saying it needs to be, but I just think, but there's nothing else in it that to me goes and blows my socks off in like the mechanics or the classes or anything like that. It feels very generic, and I can understand why that means. Okay, I'm just trying to dig myself out of a hole here, but I'm putting myself in the hole constantly. But I think,
I'm agreeing with you because I think maybe because it was so visually appealing, Morkborg, compared to other games. Like you look on like top 50 games being sold on Drive-Thru RPG, you instantly see where Morkborg is. So it's different from all the greys and greens and browns. And I think the same thing as well. I don't think Mothership is necessarily eye-catching, but I think you're right. I think if you've got a platform or you've already got a community around you, it's very easy to be like, here's my game. I mean, like Matt Colville, for example, has built a long time his YouTube channel all about D&D stuff, and then he's pivoted to his own stuff, and then his latest Kickstarter, what was it, like one of the best Kickstarters in the world for a TTRPG with very expensive books and a system which sounded, to be honest, rubbish to my ears. The idea that you'd never fail to hit something, because that's not heroic, and I'm just there going like, that sounds awful. And so I'm just saying, like, I agree. I think if you've already got a platform, you've already known well to do something, it's a lot easier to create something that people go, oh, it's really good. I think what's interesting is that Mothership has, like, as you said, the bare bones of an idea, and people can go, oh, I know what I can make from this, and not use, for example, Morkborg as the system for it. I feel that Morkborg's system is very simple and straightforward, but I've seen that system as well in lots of other games as well. But I think it's hidden quite seamlessly because of the art and because it has a setting. Mothership does not have a setting. It doesn't have a canon necessarily, whereas you're meant to create your own canon. That's what I see as the two big differences. And whichever one grabs you more, whether you want to create your own stuff or use whatever setting they've given and then change it and break it, it's up to you. I think both of them are valid, but I understand that both of them have had influences that make them as popular as they are today. I do think it's quite interesting that Mothership continues to have like Mothership month and all that sort of thing. I think did Mortborg not have like a Zine month as well? Like again, it's that encouraging of the community to create stuff, and that's the thing I'm always championing as a result.
Exactly. I think so. I'm still sort of stuck in it. I'm still stuck in it, and I agree with you. And I think and what is great is that it has created a community behind it, and it has got those zine months, and because of that, it is giving people the opportunity to make things. And I think there's nothing more like incredible than the communities that are built around these games. So that's kind of cool. I just think, I don't know. I think it's. I just think one of the things that if I had like more money, and I think they're particularly quite expensive, Exalted Funeral, but I think if you're interested in these sci-fi games and you want like rules like sci-fi games, there's about 4 or 5 that I put on my wish list on there of like just slightly more like weirder versions that seem to be more, so for example,
I was going to say, could you give some examples?
Well, Mystic Punch, it is not. It's not horror sci-fi, so I know, but it is a sci-fi one. But I was just thinking of like, it's kind of a mixture of like teens, sort of a bit like, what's it called? Stranger Things, a little bit. But it's like old school RPGs as well, sort of style, but you're a punk practicing dark magics in your town and trying to be your town savior. But it has like time travel games in it. It has time travel things and stuff like all those sort of like some really classic sci-fi tropes, but more like Are You Afraid of the Dark sort of sci-fi tropes than Twilight Zone. Just when you look at those sort of things, it's just these really amazing like pieces of like paraphernalia that buy. Do you know what I mean? That are quite cool. And what I'll do is I will tell Fiona what my recommendations were, and I'll put them in the show notes below because I can't find it now, and there's like too many on there. But there were some really fun ones that just look like they've got a similar baseline idea to them, but like art-wise and just sort of, I don't know. I just think it shows some vibes, but maybe I'm getting caught up in it.
I think it's fine. Again, it's good to know. Like I said, I think Mothership's been one of the most interesting ones to come out in recent years. And until recently, I've only just looked at it myself, and I've gone, oh, I couldn't easily run this. I've always had that thing where games look a certain way, and I do judge a game by its cover most of the time. I was like, I'm not sure about this. And then I read it, I was like, oh, I can easily run this. And actually, I said, like, a couple of the supplements I've read, I was like, oh, easily I can run this. I can do something with it. It feels a lot easier in terms of accessibility compared to, say, Aliens, for example, or Call of Cthulhu, like, which has obviously both of them have big, like, this is the setting, this is this. Whereas here, it's a bit more nebulous, and I can introduce bits and pieces from all sorts. It doesn't have to feel like it is in canon. So I think there's something to gain from it. So I hope people out there have enjoyed our sort of discussion about Mothership, because I think it's definitely of the zeitgeist right now.
As overall, it's a good game, and everyone should check it out. TM.
So that was Mothership. But Hamilton, obviously, we've got our next RPG in the zeitgeist, as it were, in the reading pile. What RPG are we doing next time for GM's Book Club?
We are going to be doing The One Ring.
Yes,
second edition. I was trying to get the song in my head for it, like. Yeah,
it's going to sound awful recording.
Yeah, okay. That's what I'm playing. That's what we're going to be talking about. I've never played it. I've read it a few times too, actually, for other things. I've even reviewed it a number of times as well, doing test things for reviews and stuff a couple of times. Yeah, it's playing Lord of the Rings. It's free league. It's got an interesting system, and it's set in the world's most famous fantasy setting there is.
Anytime you think of like D&D or like fantasy, you go, oh, Lord of the Rings, the Shire, Middle Earth, absolutely. And I also
You've played it, haven't you?
I've read it through once or twice, but I have played the starter set where you play as halflings in it, which is it's very sweet.
You can actually call them hobbits because they own the rights to hobbits.
They are the rights. You're right. Sorry, I was in D&D mode, so instantly I said halflings. Yes, hobbits in the show. What's interesting, that I think the whole of the starter set actually is that you just play hobbits doing little things, and then obviously you get to the grown-up book and you go, oh shit, awfulness possibly. So yeah, it'll be an interesting one to talk about. I think the system is really interesting. It's very different to other Free League games. It doesn't use the Year Zero engine as much. So, yes. But that'll be next time. Of course, you can find us wherever you listen to podcasts. Obviously, our stuff is in the show notes, both myself and Hamilton. And yeah, go check out the DM's Book Club as well, which is obviously our D&D weekly discussion podcast where we talk about some Dungeons and Dragons and include them in our role-playing campaigns, or just talk about them and improve them for our role-playing campaigns. You can also include them if you want, but we try to improve them. I think that's all there is to say. Do you remember our sign-off, though? That's the big question. I look at that face.
Was it flip side of the page? Was
Correct. It was flip side of the page. So
so bad. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah.
We will see you on the flip side of the page.
Amazing.
Ugh, it's so cringe. I love it. Bye.
Bye.